think about safety. If all your stuff is in one place and someone comes and gets that, it's gone. But if destroying this part of your wealth means nothing because there's copies of it everywhere else, it's so much more secure to be decentralized than it is to be centralized.
What is decentralization and why do I care when it comes to my finances? Well, today on this episode of Sat Chats Short Stacks, we're going to dive into that. Last time we talked about centralization, so you could consider this part two.
This is like a two-parter.
Our first two-parter.
First two-parter.
So I'll be your host, Chris, founder, CEO of Ithaca Hummus, Bitcoin Smash buyer. Smash the subscribe button on YouTube.
Yep. I'm your co-host, Stewart, Bitcoin Maxi. Help us unlock that live show Friday mornings, 10 a.m. So decentralization.
Why is Bitcoin decentralized? And why do we care? Why is that a good thing?
Yeah. Well, Bitcoin is decentralized for a couple of the way that it is decentralized is through a couple of different ways. You've got the nodes, Simple Steve's nodes, and instead of a single entity determining what's going on, you have independently owned and operated nodes that are all voting with their software versions, right? As far as what they think should happen with Bitcoin. So I love using that term independently owned and operated for nodes because it helps me understand that each node is run by somebody.
And so when you say node, they're not Simple Steve's nodes. For example, you were just referring to our friend Simple Steve, who talks about nodes a lot.
Yeah.
When you say node, you mean a computer running the Bitcoin core software that could be sitting anywhere on Earth.
Right.
Or orbiting in space.
It is. It's a computer. And it's just running.
And there's 21,000 of them.
Yeah.
And they are decentralized because they're all over the place and there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So like instead of one government making choices, you have 21,000 smaller computers making choices.
And how do they make choices? They make choices by electing into upgrades of the Bitcoin protocol software or not.
Yeah. So basically, where is Bitcoin? Well, it's in any one of 21,000 places. So why is that so awesome?
It's in all 21,000 places, not any one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's in all of them.
That's right. A complete copy of Bitcoin is in each of those locations.
Each of them, yes.
Yeah. So like think about safety, right? If all your stuff is in one place and someone comes and gets that, it's gone. But if destroying this part of your wealth means nothing because there's copies of it everywhere else, it's so much more secure to be decentralized than it is to be centralized.
So Bitcoin's decentralized through the 21,000 nodes that own and operate their version of the Bitcoin core software and make decisions on behalf of Bitcoin through distributed consensus that they opt in or out of new upgrades to the Bitcoin software. What's another way that Bitcoin is decentralized?
The actual coins themselves, the Satoshis themselves, right? Okay. I got some sats, you got some sats, he's got some sats, she's got some sats, right? They're all over the place. You don't have to have a node to have some Bitcoin. So the nodes are dispersed and the money itself is dispersed.
Well, aren't fiat dollars dispersed?
Yes.
So,
but fiat dollars are spewing from a single source at a rate that you don't get to choose.
And the decision on whether to increase or decrease the new supply of that money,
it's not in your hands.
It's not in our hands.
Yeah.
It's in a centralized set of hands.
It's like you don't need our permission to do whatever you want with our money.
Yeah.
Because you have centralized control of that money.
Yeah.
But with Bitcoin, you do need our permission, and you need a majority of the nodes to give you permission to make changes to Bitcoin. And that's pretty hard to get unless it is clearly a good idea to make an upgrade to Bitcoin. So if quantum computers get to the part where they can attack Bitcoin, you better believe every single node is going to elect to become quantum resistant.
Yeah, they'll.
But if somebody's like, I got a proposal to make 42 million Bitcoin, no. So it's a lot harder to take advantage of a group of people who all get to make their own choices. And that decentralization is part of Bitcoin's strength.
So centralization, very easy to corrupt, very easy to control, very easy to manipulate, because it's just a little tiny round table like this one with only a few people at it that have to agree, yes, this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
And it could be in their best interest, but not in the best interest of the whole. Decentralization, on the other hand, very difficult to corrupt, impossible to control, and impossible to manipulate in a nefarious way.
So here we go. Couple of examples of something centralized becoming decentralized and it being a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the Middle Ages. Where are the books?
In the homes of the lords of the rich people.
Maybe some did for sure. But they were mostly inside the churches.
In the churches, okay.
Right? There was only really one book anybody cared about back in that day. It was the Bible. And who's painstakingly making copies of it by hand because they're too busy not chasing it after that tail?
We Irish.
all the tonsured monks were.
Yeah.
Right? So where was the information? It was centralized inside the church. Okay. And I believe it's the Catholic Church. Here comes Gutenberg. And he's going to do in Europe what the Chinese did long before he did. Nothing cool. China looks like, great job, printing press, homie.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you guys are where we were 300 years ago. What are you going to come up with next? Huh? Gunpowder? Already did it. It's in our fireworks, you dummy. So Gutenberg gets the printing press rolling. And now, instead of having to painfully inscribe, copy by hand, can you imagine copying the Bible by hand?
I would never do it.
It would be so long.
Put me on a plow. I'd rather work the fields.
Seriously. Yeah. I'd rather do anything.
Yeah.
So now it still takes time. You have to put individual letters in, get them all lined up, put them backwards, pop them in. But then all you got to do is press. That's a paper. You can press it 100,000 times, right? So what happens to the books? The books go from being centralized inside the churches to decentralized in almost every person's hand. Books got stupid cheap. So they go into first maybe the Lord's homes, but then into the homes of the mercantile class, and finally just pass down to dudes who don't have that much money, but they can still read. What happens? Humans get way smarter, way faster because they can share information with one another in the form of these books. So the books were centralized. It's not a good idea to centralize information that way because it gatekeeps these things. Then it gets broken back outward and all the people get access to it. So that's just one example, and there's many more. But money is the same way. If you have control, if you're hoarding all the money, number one, we can't get at it, we can't use it, we can't spend it. And the Vikings, by the way, where was the gold centralized in the Middle Ages? Also the churches. And the Vikings would come and they would just bust the church up, burn it down, kill everybody, take their gold, here's a gold relic, here's an ancient, here's a holy god, like whatever, melt it down, break it up. I'm gonna go buy some cool stuff with this. And they actually broke up the money. They actually broke up the money and got it back into circulation. So you don't want to centralize the cash because then we can't use it, but you also don't want to centralize who gets to decide what happens with the cash because then they can do all kinds of funny business. We want our cash out in the open. We want our cash on the internet. We want our cash moving between, where's Spartacus? I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. You're Spartacus. You can't find us, right? So that is decentralization. When you have an entity or an organization or a concept or a thing that is not in one place but in many places, that is decentralization. And when it's done right, it's incredible.
That's been another episode of Sat Chat's Short Stacks. Thanks for joining us, and remember, Sat Chats is for informational purposes only, educational purposes only, should not be construed for financial advice. We'll see you on the next one.